A jar of Elvis's hair just sold for $72,000.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. It was a little pricey, but wait till you see it glued on my head. It's going to look great.
You know what? If you do a full show with Elvis's hair glued to your head, I will pay you $72,000.
Just let's line it up. Let's do it. For 72 grand, I will definitely glue his hair to my head. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, NFL MVP odds, old guy homers, and Ryder Cup selections. But we begin today with 19-year-old Leylah Fernandez, who is now into the semis at the U.S. Open. She is Canadian with Ecuadorian and Filipino parents. She's ranked 73rd in the world, and the New York crowd loves her. On the way to the semis, Fernandez has beaten Naomi Osaka, Angelique Kerber, and Alina Svitolina, who have 7 majors in their pockets. Wilbon, what do you make of Fernandez's run?
It's exciting. I mean, people get overstated and they can look for things. And knowing these two generations of people who talk about sports, sometimes professionally, they'll find a way to sort of numerically evaluate it in some phony way. It's the joy she brings to the arena, Tony. And I noticed yesterday, you used the word playing to the crowd, and she does that. You're right. But, Tony, she didn't have to. The crowd plays to her because she's excited. And I can't help but, and I have to be careful here, compare this to my favorite player and something that she obviously goes through and has talked about and is stepping away for a while, Naomi Osaka, who's my favorite player on the men's side or the women's side, just my fave. The joy that this young woman, a teenager, just turned 19, brings, it stands in stark comparison. I hope Naomi Osaka can find that because I'm sure she had it. Hope is still in her. But this is just oozing out and you can't but feel affected by it. I feel joy watching her. Hope that's not an overstatement, Tom, but that's the way I feel.
No, I agree with everything that you've said. I mean, I don't want to get carried away here because we have seen teenagers get to the semis in a major and go out in the second round the next week. That happens a lot. In fact, this young woman won a tournament earlier this year. In her next 11 tournaments in a row, she was out in the first or the second round, so I don't want to get carried away. And maybe what I'm about to say is tempered by the fact that Federer and Nadal and Serena are not in this tournament. And the New York crowd, which I know well, having grown up there, wants somebody to love. So I'm going to be careful here when I say this, because they love her. And I do think she plays to the crowd. I think she's extraordinarily demonstrative. I agree with you completely that what she does is joyful, and we have too many tennis players who seem tortured by what they do for a living. And as long as this young woman continues to win, she's going to have that crowd. My bona fides, as we like to say, go back to 1971 at Forest Hills when Chris Evert made her debut. Chris Evert is nothing like this girl. She was an ice maiden on the court. She had no reaction to anything. She stood on the baseline. She ripped your heart out of your body and ate it in front of you. But the New York crowd loved her. They loved Connors. They loved McEnroe. They don't love everybody. They sense in certain players something that they relate to. And so far, Leylah Fernandez has that. But again, who knows what happens next week, right?
Yeah, we're not projecting performance or greatness or any of that. We're talking about the now. And I'm not a New Yorker, but I've been I've been on those grounds many, many times in my career. And she appeals to something in me. I just like watching her, whether it's demonstrative or whether it's organic, Tony. I don't know, but it's cool. I can't wait to watch the next match. Old guys got it done in baseball last night, Tony. I'm sure you noticed like I did. 41-year-old Albert Pujols of the Dodgers, that's still hard for me to say, got a standing O in St. Louis. And then responded by promptly hitting one out. Meanwhile, 41-year-old Nelson Cruz became the oldest player in baseball history to hit 30 home runs in the season after hitting 2 in the Rays win over the Sox. Tone, whose night to you was more significant?
So this is not even close to me. It's a slam dunk one way. I'm not knocking Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz, this is an achievement, getting to be the oldest player to ever hit 30 home runs. I sat on this show a few weeks ago. I said he'll never get to 500. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's Tom Brady, and maybe he will get there. Albert Pujols is a couple of months older than Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz's home runs last night gave him 447. Albert Pujols has a little number I like to call 679. And what he did last night in St. Louis, where they gave him a standing ovation just for showing up, because while he was there, and I think it was the 10 years he was there, he was Ruth, he was Gehrig, he was Musial. He was unbelievably great. And when he hits one out in his first at bat, and then they call him out for a curtain call because they love him so much and they want him to know it. Nelson Cruz never going to have that in his life.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz's accomplishment is just an accounting. This refers back to what I said about numbers. And by the way, it's a significant number. It's not a made-up millennial and next-gen number. It isn't. So big clap for him. I hate the St. Louis Cardinals. Like, I don't hate anybody. I hate them more than the Packers, actually. When Yadier Molina went and stood out in front of home plate, as if to say,
Hugged him.
I hugged him, but I mean, the standing away from home plate was, the spotlight's on you, big boy. I played with you. We won. We got hardware with you. We're both going to Cooperstown from St. Louis, all right? And when he did that and let the crowd just applause bathe over Pujols, I got goosebumps, and I hate them. I do. But I don't hate them individually. I admire those players, what they stand for, what they stood for. St. Louis, sorry, Boston and New York. St. Louis, in my mind, is the best baseball town in America. And they knew how to celebrate their guy, no matter where he had gone otherwise and elsewhere and since.
So let me get to that point. Because when he hits that home run out in St. Louis, that's that moment that gives you chills. That's when Derek Jeter gets a home run for his 3,000th hit. That's a field of dreams moment for Albert Pujols. Very, very, very late in his career. That's wonderful. Again, no disrespect to Nelson Cruz.
No.
But that other thing, that's a special moment. We move on. The United States Ryder Cup roster is set. Captain Steve Stricker used his 6 captain's picks on Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, Tony Finau, Harris English, Daniel Berger, and Scotty Scheffler. The odd man out is Patrick Reed. Stricker said the decision was so hard that he lost sleep over it. Wilbon, let us start with Reed. What do you think of Stricker bypassing Patrick Reed?
Well, the most important thing Stricker said, other than not getting sleep, even more important than that, was that he was going with the youth movement. He was going young. That the best players out there today are younger, they become great earlier, and they produce now. Every other Ryder Cup captain I've ever listened to talked about getting experienced players. And they followed up on it by putting experienced players in for the wild card spots. There were fewer of them. But Stricker made a conscious decision, Tony, and he's opened himself up. Let me give him first credit for having the nerve to say, here's what I believe in. I'm the captain. Here's what I'm putting on the team. But man, if they go down to an experienced team of European players, all of whom seem to be studs in this event. Forget the major championships. They're studs in the Ryder Cup, in international play. That's going to open Stricker up to criticism. But the Patrick Reed part of it, Tony, I don't understand it, really. Like, are other players not in favor of him? What's the mood in the locker room with him? This is about camaraderie as much as anything. Europe has it. We usually don't have the same amount.
The greatest moment I ever saw in Ryder Cup was at Hazeltine, where Rory McIlroy birdied and egged the crowd on to cheer for him. And Patrick Reed came back and birdied on top of him and egged the crowd on to cheer for him. And that particular individual match became, for me, an Ali Frazier fight. It was unbelievably great. That's when Patrick Reed began to be known as Captain America. Let me give you some numbers on Patrick Reed in the Ryder Cup. He's 7-3-2 overall and 3-0 in singles. This is Seve territory. Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson are under 500 in their overall record. You can't leave this guy off the team. If he doesn't have double pneumonia on the day you're going out there, you have to put him on. Let's talk about pairings. Okay, nobody likes Reed. Everybody knows that nobody likes Reed. Nobody likes the Shambo. So put the Shambo with Reed because you've got a possibility of 5 matches and only one of them is singles. So the pairing is important. Mike,
Yeah.
you're 100% right about the European squad. They got veterans who know what they're doing.
They do.
I would not have left Patrick Reed off this team. Not at all.
Tony,
not me.
As we often say, this is a results-based business. So if Steve Stricker's team wins, okay, and they don't have Patrick Reed, he'll be blessed. He'll be fine. But if they lose and if they go down hard and they don't have Patrick Reed, and I'm not a Patrick Reed guy. Reed and DeChambeau, I can't summon anything in me to cheer for them individually. But I gotta say, it's hard to leave them off, Tone.
6 of our 12 guys are in their first Ryder Cup.
First year?
Patrick
Yeah,
Reed
Finau's played
it's
once.
It's not his first rodeo, kids.
No.
And he's not old. He's in his 30s.
No, he's
Let's
not.
take a break. Coming up, Patrick Mahomes is a favorite to win. It's time for toss-up. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, and then wonders how many more days we're going to be stuck on ESPN2, huh? What's first?
You're going to be in that
Toss-up. Who you got for NFL MVP? Patrick Mahomes or the field?
Okay, this is a betting question because Patrick Mahomes has the shortest odds of anybody in the league at 5-1. That is what this is about. If you give me the field against one guy in a subjective situation, not an objective situation, I'm going to take the field. Of course I'm going to take the field. Patrick Mahomes is the best football player on the planet. But he was that last year and the year before, too. And Lamar Jackson was the MVP one year, and Aaron Rodgers was the MVP one year. What if he gets hurt? Then what happens to this particular bet? If you say to me, okay, will you take a quarterback? Yeah, I'll take a quarterback against the field because, Mike, the last 8 times they gave out this award, it was to a quarterback on 13 of the last 14. But I'm not going to take this quarterback or any one quarterback against the field when you have Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. And, I think that Matthew Stafford has a chance. So, no, I'm not taking Mahomes against the field.
I'm not even taking a quarterback. I'm taking Derrick Henry. I'm going to flash back to the days where running backs were the most glamorous people just a half step behind quarterback. And we go all the way back, of course, to Jim Brown. And before that, Marion Motley and Gale Sayers and all the great running backs. Tony, Derrick Henry, if he has the kind of year that it looks like he's capable of, all right, where he's already had a 2,000-yard year, only Eric Dickerson, when we go back to 1983-84, had a 1,800-yard year, then a 2,000-yard year. The number of guys who've been able to put together those kinds of seasons back-to-back, I know it's a one-season vote. But if Derrick Henry goes up over 1,700 yards, and by the way, with Julio Jones there, he might be able to do less and have greater impact for Tennessee. I am going with Derrick Henry specifically for the MVP.
There's too much opportunity for one guy to carry a team and win this thing. It's easier. Next.
Toss-up. More likely to win tonight's World Cup qualifier, the U.S. or Honduras?
Okay, I'm out of my league here. I am not a soccer guy. I know next to nothing about soccer, but I do know that in the last 2 games that the United States teams played, they played against El Salvador and Canada. They tied both games, and they scored a total of 1 goal. A total of 1 goal. Now, we are allegedly ranked 10th in the world, and El Salvador is ranked 64th, and Canada's ranked 59th, and we have 1 goal. And we have all these great players playing in Europe, which supposedly signifies that they're great players. And we have 1 goal in 2 games. So I'm not picking us over Honduras, especially not in Honduras. I'm going to pick 0-0 or 1-1, and that's as far as I'm going.
Yeah, I knew we'd get to the goal scoring part of the program, which Tony jumped right to, which is good. And Honduras is supposed to be a pretty good defensive club. Well, I mean, come on, if you can only score 1 goal against El Salvador and Canada, I mean, I sort of get stuck on that too, Tony. And look, at some point, if you're supposed to have won each of those games and you didn't, you're going to have to start to win some games that you're not supposed to win. It's not a must, all right? It's like the 3rd game out of 14 in the qualifying effort. So let's not get crazy here, but I don't know who's going to win. I'm not even going to pick a team to win. I just know the United States needs to start scoring and needs to figure it out against a defensive team. I'm going to watch, Tony. I know you'll be asleep and you'll be an hour into nap time by then. I will hold I'll hold it up for the team. I'll represent for PTI.
Still watch the Nats. That's
please.
it. Let's take one last break. Still to come.
Speaking of one
Derek
goal.
Jeter enters the Hall of Fame.
Be an elite offense, and we're going to find out very quickly.
Whoa, you're being put in the penalty bin here for a banned word, but let me ask a follow-up real
shoot.
quick. The expectations that Prescott is setting on himself, fast start, and on this team after he's been away from football and trying to rehab.
That's why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. What do you expect him to say? Oh, yeah, it should be kind of medium, decent, not explosive.
All right.
He's going to say that. And he's right. They have to be explosive. The defense is that bad, Tony.
Israel, I'll bring you in here.
Well, I hope that Dak is more accurate than Jackson Pollock because his stuff was just kind of everywhere. I actually believe that Dak is going to be better than last year or at the beginning of last year. I think it's a little tricky what he said, right? Because, it talked about it. The Dallas defense wasn't very good last year, wasn't good at all. They seem to have improved. They spent almost their entire draft on it. They spent the offseason trying to improve that side of the ball.
So. Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
And with Dak Prescott, he's at least familiar with his offensive weapons. You know, Cooper, Gallup, a little bit of CeeDee Lamb, obviously Zeke. And so if he's feeling good and his shoulder's feeling okay and it's a couple of big ifs, I think he can go right in there and just say to himself, look, I'm not going to turn the ball over. I'll make some big plays. Yeah, I'll have a better season because our wins will be, higher. Obviously, he didn't play the whole season. And that's what's going to judge his season, not necessarily the stats. So I do believe him. I do believe he's got a good offensive group around him, and that defense almost has to be better.
Okay, Mina's not buying that. But first, Kevin Blackistone on the expectations Prescott setting.
Well, these are some amazing expectations given a guy who just started practicing 11 on 11, I believe, just a couple of weeks ago. A guy who we haven't seen play since, week 6 or 7 or something like that of last season. So this is a tremendous expectation. To me, with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, it's not a fast start that should be most important, but it's a very long finish to an extra long season because it was your disappearance last year because of injury that really derailed this Cowboys team. So to me, he needs to be careful early and stay healthy for the long run of this team and really get that offense that Mina talked about up and cranking. But I don't think, to me, I see this first game as almost a preseason game for him because he didn't even have a preseason game.
Mm-hmm. Greg Isola.
Yeah, credit the professor. I think he nailed that one. And let's remember, too, the last time Tampa's defense, we saw them shut down Aaron Rodgers. We saw them shut down Patrick Mahomes. They played pretty well. I'm of the belief that Dak Prescott is good enough to win a Super Bowl. So I'm in that camp. But let's remember, he hasn't played since last October. The last time he played a game of significance was in December of 2019 against Philadelphia. His team put up 9 points. I do believe he will get better as the year goes on. I don't expect a fast start by him, but let's face it, that division, 9-7, you could win the division. So I think it's about how he plays later in the season, and to Kevin's point, staying healthy.
Now that there's 17 games, you can't say that anymore. It's 9-8, 9-7-1. Mina, back please on the Cowboys defense, because whenever it's invoked, I'm seeing a face from you that makes it look like you're going to vomit. Go ahead.
I mean, if your best case for this defense is they can't be worse, you're not in a good place, especially in this game. This is a secondary that I believe ranks amongst the worst in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers' number 3 wide receiver is Antonio Brown. Okay, he would be a number 1 on many teams. This offense is terrifying. The Dallas Cowboys defense.
Seems like you're leaning towards